Citizens of Marvel Future Fight, while you're all gushing over Silver Surfer, we have work to do with our new main man here, Ronan. Got a massive upgrade, new tier 3, new uniform, and is actually a pretty relevant player now because of this new uniform. So let's take a look at what he's getting here. As far as the uniform options go, they're pretty good. You've got Sharon Rogers' newest, you've got Miles' newest, you've got Voodoo, Doctor, Valkyrie's newest, and then Doctor Strange's newest. So again, very, very, very good optionals. You have 3 tier 4s, which is crazy. And again, all very, very strong characters. Nothing like, nothing weak or sort of out of place. And actually, you only have the most expensive here being the native tier 2 Doctor Strange from the Epic Quest. But yeah, it's not quite as expensive as it could be. So very, very nice optionals there from Ronan. And as far as the uniform goes, this is where everything comes from, because the uniform now is giving him a massive upgrade on his passives and his support. So before, his support was just 20% ignore dodge to all allies. Now, universal allies, so it's a bit more specific, but universal allies are getting 25% ignore dodge and then a 40-40 buff to heroes and villains. That is similar to Valkyrie's buff. So this uniform, although it is more specific in the fact that it's only for universals, has a comparable support buff to Valkyrie, which is crazy. Like, that's very, very strong. Now, his artifact is giving another buff. It's not quite as strong as Valkyrie. It's not an increase to boss damage passive buff on an artifact, but it does increase basic attack for all allies. So he's a very, very strong support now. And if that wasn't enough, the new uniform also makes his leadership much better, giving all universals 50% attack and 36%, all defense. So very, very strong there. That alone is probably worth enough to make his uniform valuable. The fact that it's just so useful as a support if you need to support universal types in World Boss, in GBR, in ABX, in ABL, or even in some rare cases in some PvP action. We'll talk a little bit more about the PvP stuff later, but for the time being, I do want to focus on the PvE aspect of it because his support is so far-reaching. I really have to highlight that. He's sort of like a Cyclops Valkyrie hybrid just for universal types. Now, as far as my build goes for him, it's very run-of-the-mill. It's a bunch of 4-star Uru, rank 4 type enhancement, stage 12 Power of Angry Hulk, no artifact, and then we have a 140 proc. I'll show you what his rotation looks like for damage if you wanted to use him as a damage dealer. However, he's not going to perform very well because, as you can tell, as you probably guessed, his main function, his main role is to serve as a support and as a leadership for other characters to do the big and the nasty. So you want to instant cancel the 3, and then you either instant cancel the 4 into 5, or you delay cancel the 4 into 5. Those are your 2 options. So the first option, if you cancel everything, just looks like this. You do 3, 4, 5, and you just wait for the second hammer slam, boom, and you get about 80, 90 hits. It's honestly reasonable. It's way better, miles better than any of his old uniforms, right? 90 hits is insane, right? The fact that Ronan's hitting almost triple digits is bonkers. You can go a little bit higher. However, if you delay cancel the 4 until he jumps up and shoots this ball, and then you combo the ball with the hammer, and now he hits over 115 hits. So yes, you are sacrificing about 25 hits by not delay canceling 4. 25 hits is a lot, right? It's a lot of hits. You're talking like more than 25% of his hits are being lost. However, the problem is you're not going to delay cancel and proc on this because there are 20 hits before you press 5. There's just no way that you're going to miss a 1 in 10 20 times. There's just no way. So if you wanted to proc with Ronan using an obelisk, using a CTP of energy, something like that, you have to do 3, 4, 5. Again, it's still a respectable 90 hits. Obviously, he's not going to compete with, Gladiator, Beta Ray Bill, Silver Surfer. They're obviously way stronger universal aliens here. I'm just talking about the people who really want to use him for this kind of content. And then if you have the 6 skill up, you just do everything cancel into 6. The only sad thing here is the 6 skill actually doesn't have that many hits, so it looks very similar to his regular rotation where you land on 5. Now again, if you had the opportunity to delay cancel 4, then you can turn those 100 hits from the from the tier 3. You can turn that into a little bit more. I believe it's like 125 or something like that. Yeah, 135. Okay, that's actually quite nice. But again, you have to either get very lucky with your delay cancel, or you have to do some pretty clever shenanigans, or you have to give him a rage TTP if that's something you want to do. He doesn't have a guaranteed crit rate, but yeah, that is sort of is what it is. Unfortunately, I'm not going to talk too much about the PvP stuff, but unfortunately, because it's unfortunate because he has such good PvP passives, you know, 50% damage reduction and then 30% all defense with super armor, but they didn't give him any, you know, they didn't give him any super guard break skills, so he doesn't have super guard break on any of his skills, and he doesn't have iframe ignore, and he doesn't even have that much healing. Speaking of his healing, let's go take a look. So Ronan's base heal on his third skill triggers 3 times for a tick of 5% for a total of 15% heal over about 2 seconds, 3 seconds. It's not very good. I'll be honest with you. I was expecting a little bit more. And yeah, just having 15% these days is really the bare minimum for characters. And seeing as how you can't really, I mean, I guess you can sort of spam his third skill. It's nice that the bubble appears no matter what. Like even if you instant cancel 3, and I'll show you that right now. Even if I instant cancel 3 into 4, the bubble always appears, and the bubble even heals you when you're in iframe. So it does have a lot of flexibility that way. I just wish it was ticking for maybe 4 seconds so it could heal for 20%, or even 5 seconds so it could heal for 25%. I really don't think that would have broken this character. The good news is if we switch over to Silver Surfer and we wait 10 seconds and get hit, the good news is that you can actually pass the heal over to another character. So in this hypothetical situation, my Silver Surfer lost some HP, but he can't heal himself for some reason. So I'm going to drop his heal and immediately switch. And as you can see there, Silver Surfer is able to take advantage of all 3 seconds of the heal. You have to switch right away. If you're late switching, you only get 2 seconds of the heal, so you only get 10%. But he can technically pass a 10 to 15% heal onto another character with switching. So he does represent an active heal option for characters who don't have healing or who have very little healing. Unfortunately, as a striker, Ronan does his 4th skill and not his 3rd skill, so you wouldn't be able to take advantage of that healing if he's jumping in as a striker. This is only stage 14 of Ultron, but we can use it to showcase Ronan's ability to proc. We can see how proc friendly he is. We can also investigate the range on his skills, and we can sort of talk about what an ideal rotation would look like for him with a proc. Now, what I've already noticed is that doing 2 rotations of 3, 4, 5 does not get you his tier 3 skill. So like a lot of recent characters that we've talked about, you're going to want to cancel everything. So 1 cancel, 2 cancel, 3 cancel, 4 cancel, 5. You're going to want to bring all of the skills into play if you want to charge up his tier 3 fast enough. Now, keep in mind, if you're going to be using Ronan as a lead support or as a main damage dealer for specific bosses, you know, Corvus, of course, from old content, but from newer content, Null and Gore, who have very high dodge, he gives himself 25% ignore dodge. So if you're pairing Ronan with someone like Valkyrie, you're already getting yourself a ton of dodge by default, ignore dodge by default, so you may not need to use any additional strikers. So although you're going to mainly be buying this uniform for its support capabilities, I missed a proc there, you can absolutely you know, take advantage of him while you're still building your roster up if you're lacking in things like, for example, you know, support strikers who have the agent support strikers who have the 20% ignore dodge stat, because that can be something that, you know, earlier accounts don't have a lot of. And so being able to sort of build a two-way, kind of like a two-way character like this, who can do both. He can be a lead, he can be a support, and he can do a little bit of damage for you, as you can see, you know, while saving you those striker, you know, those valuable striker characters for somebody else for another clear. That's not bad, right? So you could buy Ronan's uniform now. You could build him up for now. And then, of course, as soon as you get a higher damage dealer, you can transition him into fully a support/lead role while you're still sort of building things up. But yeah, this is not bad. It's not a bad performance, but it is a pretty low stage. So, you know, I don't expect him to go too much higher. And again, the thing is, it's hard for him to compete with, I think I missed my proc there. You have to be pretty quick with the canceling. But it's, yeah, realistically speaking, it's hard for Ronan to compete with all of the aliens we've gotten lately. You know, we've been spoiled with aliens, you know, Gladiator, Beta Ray Bill, Silver Surfer, whether it's PvE or PvP. We really have a lot of selection now. And so that's why, you know, as far as damage goes, Ronan is not really at the top of anybody's list. But he's fun to play. He's fairly fairly proc friendly on his rotation, I would say. I wouldn't give him a 10 out of 10 for proc friendliness, because you do have to be pretty fast with the with pressing the buttons. But you know, I'd still give him like a 7 or an 8 out of 10 on proc friendliness. It's fairly intuitive how to cancel, and you do have those lingering hits. One more tip I have for you Ronan enthusiasts who insist on playing him with a proc, but want to incorporate that 4th skill delay cancel. What you want to do is intentionally trigger your obelisk proc early, miss it, but don't do your rotation, but then start it early, so that now when you proc, it'll incorporate all of those hits. And that should put you in a position where you basically wind up your rotation a little bit early, and then lead basically itself into the proc. Now, you're gonna have to reset this every time your Ronan gets interrupted. So here my Ronan got interrupted by these stuns, so now I have to basically do it again. I miss my proc, I wait a few seconds, and then I go into the rotation, and I should land the proc. It can be pretty messy for sure. I don't think this is the way you ought to play him, but and especially because he can get interrupted and stuff like that. But if you really want to try and take advantage of that 4 delay cancel, then this is something that you're going to have to sort of practice. And there's a few other characters who have the same sort of quirk where you sort of have a wind up. But yeah, the only other option you would have is playing him with a rage CTP. Aside from his limited potential as a damage dealer, I think the majority of Ronan's value and why you should still strongly consider picking up this uniform lies in his tremendous value as a lead/support. Now, I know it's only for universals, but the fact that you can compare it to Valkyrie, plus he has the future potential of getting that artifact if you ever find it in some way, and you know, 3-star, 4-star, whatever, that adds additional value to all allies, right? His artifact buffs all allies attacks, not just universals. So he's very, very flexible as a support. And given that a lot of the content that you're going to play him in anyways, like World Boss and ABX and ABL, is already going to be restricted to just universals and things of that nature, it's often going to line up. And just to show you a comparison with some recent supports that aren't like seasonal or paywall, you know, you look at someone like Angela, and although Angela provides a generically good buff to all allies, it is actually worse than Ronan's. Plus, she has no leadership, right? Her leadership is like 40% physical defense. So Ronan clearly blows her out of the water in that regard as far as value. Not to mention with the with the command tag, the command ability, it actually puts him in place to cover 21 different sets of 5 stages for World Boss. So if you take a look at this comparison here, he actually has he meets more stage requirements than Silver Surfer, Loki, Hela, Ghost Rider, or Ant-Man, which is actually quite nice. 21 is right around the average number of stages for a tier 4. Now, I know Ronan's not a tier 4, but he'd be a leadership/support for tier 4s. We've done this in the past looking at supports like Nick Fury, so I think it is important to consider, and certainly increases his value. I do wish he had more value, to be honest with you. I do wish they had given him iframe ignore or a better heal so that he could stand up a little bit further in PvP, because that 3rd skill bubble is really cool. I think the devs had a really good idea, and it just was executed poorly. You know, I think there's just a lot of things about the 3rd skill that I don't like. I don't like its duration of the heal. I also think that the size of the heal could be larger. It's quite a small bubble. And then again, I wish that they would sort of paired it with other things, because they were going in the right direction, right? Making him a really cool lead support, and then making him a sort of heal utility for PvP. We don't have a lot of those. They're very rare. But I guess they didn't want to make a free character that good. I don't know. Anywho, I think he's good enough. But yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button. It helps out the channel tremendously. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.